Hello and welcome to F1OWC, a brand new league that I've decided to join with some pretty fast races. And I managed to park my car into P1 after a pretty awesome lap, and basically we're here to see how it goes. As tradition, we stay on board for the first lap, where I start struggling basically everywhere. Most people that know me know I have one of the worst pieces of tyre wear on the game, and it's annoying in league racing scenarios, but at the same time it means that I can go for weird strategies that no one really thinks of, and be able to push until the very end. And they usually end up working out, sometimes they don't. A prime one was AOR Austria, where I ended up getting hung up behind too many people and just couldn't make it back through. So hopefully the same result doesn't happen here. But meddling around with everything, I knew that I'd have the pace, so I decided to start conserving ERS and fuel at the end of lap 1. However, you can already see my tyres are a bit gone, so that's always a good sign when you're losing it in lap 1 on the fast right. So good omens for the rest of the race. But I pulled a bit of a gap. I believe at the very least B got a bit sideways off the final corner and ended up losing a massive amount of time. But going on to lap 3, he's caught me back up, and as you can see, the tyre was really taking the toll. Sideways moment there, and B has a move. I block it off, and because I was trying to head into the pit lane, I had to stay ahead of him. And I knew it was going to be a bit risky, especially with him trying to outbrake me, but I managed to do it around the outside and get ahead so I can go into the pits. And I played a bit fire with the pits, but at the same time you need to in the league racing scenario where you're going for probably what is not the ideal strategy. However, I believe that B and Dylan both went for it, so the top 3 all went for 2 stops due to just the tyre wear of running out fast. So coming out the pits, and we're about to get a jump cut to lap 4, where I end up catching up to the back of Winfield, who makes it a pretty easy overtake. Runs out wide, hits a gravel trap, and there's not much he can do to defend. So up into P11, so outside the point, so you know it's going to have to be a hard-fought battle. However, on lap 7, 3 laps later, I'm into P6, and Bozza with the lag throws me off a bit in the braking zone. I go off, which was at the present point taking me off because I needed to get fast times, and Bozza ends up just staying to the outside, so I just take the advantage and go straight down the inside and end up getting myself up into P5 with Dynamite in P4 battling my teammate. And Dynamite was planning a risky 1-stop, so I had to get ahead of him before I ended up hitting, otherwise it wouldn't matter, which I didn't end up doing. He pitted before I caught him. However, Y-Tunes makes relatively easy overtake considering we're teammates. And all of a sudden I'm back up into P10 with only 10 people left in the race. I don't know the 2 people that retired in order to make it that way, but unfortunately 2 people were lost along the way. However, good news for people that would finish. No matter where you finished now, you would get points. So everyone now can get points and into the pits. So B ends up taking the lead, Max Payne ends up taking P2, and Dylan takes P3. And Bozza, still on those mediums, goes into P4, and I'm behind now both the McLarens and both the Williams. And I knew they were going to give me a hard-fought battle. So I decided to have a charge at him, coming out the pits. And a bit sideways out of the pits, I've just realised how unedited this is. So, you know. But I just basically decided to show the outlap. So it's a bit awkward. Dynamite's up there in P6, so that was the person I was trying to catch. And what ended up happening was that I was talking to Butler and Dynamite after the race. And what ended up happening was they'd agreed for team orders. However, as soon as they realised how close I was, that order didn't go out the window per se, but it just meant that he'd have to pass him on DRS, which he does end up doing, and all of a sudden it's a headshot in the firing lines of the charging Sauber, and ran the second to last corner where I had a bit of troubles. Ended up getting a penalty off of it, which I thought was unjust considering the fact that there was a bit of lag in play, and I was trying to avoid slamming into the back of Boza, who at the time was live streaming, so his internet was not as good as it could have been. But anyway, heading on to lap 16, and the Williams are dead in front of me, and they are in the firing line for the Sauber. Headshot was starting to struggle on those softs, and I knew he was because he pit 2 laps later, so I knew he was either going to be pitting in next lap or this lap. So even though I could have perhaps stayed behind him, I needed to make the move to get to Dynamite, who at the time I was battling for the lead in reality, due to a 5-second penalty from the event qualifier, as Headshot defends the inside and I just saw it even deeper. Very decent move, and Butler agreed for it too. However, at the time he wasn't that impressed. However, I think on his destroyed tyres he probably would have been able to pull it up if they weren't destroyed. However, he ends up touching me. No losses gained. Here's the warning I was on about. That's a bit iffy, but it didn't end up affecting the race results at the end. However, that did mean that I got a penalty due to it, and I had to pull 8 seconds to the man behind. However, the man I was technically battling for the lead here, Dynamite, I end up putting it into overtake, and he doesn't give me much of a fight. He knew that I was going to get him eventually, and he didn't want to fight it, as he knew he had to have some pace at the end of the race, just to make it, really. But anyway, on to lap 29, which was, funnily enough, my fastest lap of the race. But all in all, the gap, I believe, between me and Big is about 9 seconds. Yeah, there it is, 9.5, so I was definitely not going to be slacking, because if he did end up catching that gap, I was in a lot of trouble. But anyway, you see, I'm trying to actually, funnily enough, I've never been able to do this, but I'm trying to complete a achievement, which is to finish the race with no ERS, so hence why I just start going balls to the wall with ERS, and really pushing. I leave the fuel as it is because I know I can make it to the end due to my fuel conning at in the middle phase. But my tyres, they weren't looking too good, so I knew I had to be sort of considerate on them. However, I also knew I was going to be pushing my heart out just to make the gap a bit bigger and make the win a bit more solid. As you can see through the fast right, no dramas there actually, it was very clean, but I'm down in sector 2, so I managed to find a shitload of time through the final sector, and you'll see here's a 9.2 second gap to Big, who was on the softs. However, he left the charge a bit too late to catch up to me, and I crossed the line to set a PB and win the Bahrain Grand Prix. B in second and Dynamite in third to complete the podium. Hope you have a great day. I've been Pryingstingray. See you for next race around China.